It's time for your number one NAI men's basketball podcast to begin as the Road to Muni podcast with Junior and Coach Lubbers begins now.
Hello, NAI Hoops Nation, and welcome to another season of the Road to Muni podcast. Coach, it's good to have you back with us, having Coach Lubbers joining us for another season. But this is going to be our preview show. Not gonna dive too deep into the season, but do want to kind of just give a glimpse into what kind of expect going into the season, and just to give a preview of kind of what to expect and things like that. But Coach, for you and I, we've been interviewing some coaches and I know some pros. I know you and I are kind of waiting as we're speaking right now, kind of waiting some news on a special player to you. You know, some news on Riley here, and waiting to see what expected for him. But you know, we've kind of been talking and previewing some stuff all off season, but excited to get the season going as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, excited for Riley. Obviously, I think nothing's official, but he's certainly positioned himself well for hopefully at least that two-way contract with the Spurs. So hats off to him and representing NAI basketball really, really well. And there's other guys as well. I mean, we've had a couple others on the show, so not to minimize what else is going on. But yeah, it's exciting. And two things surprised me this year so far. One is you didn't fire me from the show, so that's a win. I mean, my salary is outrageous, so I don't know how you keep up with that. But and then the other one is it's already basketball season. I mean, we're right there. Next week's games and tipping off. We're talking to these coaches. You know, they're ready for games, right? And so just an awesome time of year, and excited to buzz through kind of this preview show with you and get another year the podcast kicked off.
Yeah, I think that's been the common theme, right? From talking to some of these coaches, it's everybody's ready to lace them up. I think everybody's. I know there's been some scrimmages and things, but I think everybody's maybe tired of playing each other, you know, scrimmaging against each other, and ready to really get laced up against each other or laced up against other people for real. And most people officially can start off October 24th. I know the NEI, you know, some teams are a little bit later than that. I saw, you know, I think we have teams as late as like the second week of November tipping off. So. You know, and
pros and cons to that, right?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
And some of that is just kind of based off of leagues too, right? I mean, we have so many big leagues in across the country that some of them are going to play early games just because their conference games start so early too. I mean, we'll literally have teams starting league play, you know, almost the same time as other teams are just getting their first or second official game going. So it's just kind of the uniqueness of the NEI schedule. It kind of just how it plays out every year. But you know, and then we have smaller leagues out there that you'll see some teams traveling all across the country because they have to schedule so many or so many games because their leagues only play a handful of games, and so they're just going anywhere and everywhere just to be able to schedule a game.
Yeah. It's always interesting earlier in the year, right? Sometimes even at our level here, you get teams that have played, like you said, 3 or 4 games going up against somebody that hasn't even had one yet. And there, like I said, there's pros and cons to both of that. There's certainly, we talked, I know last year with some of the coaches, at least in the preseason, about some of the scheduling philosophy, right? And how do you do that? Why do you do that? And there's a lot of ways to skin a cat, but by the time they all get to that arena that's behind you, the truth has kind of come out about who teams are. So you can keep it under wraps for so long, but eventually it comes out.
Well, that's been the big shift, and we by the time this airs, we'll have another coaches conversation come out here. But the shift has been the RPI, right? I mean, that's the big topic of conversation among coaches and even leagues. You know, the strength of schedule is starting to matter quite a bit, and teams are starting to schedule that. And it used to be, you know, where you would just schedule, you know, whoever in your league, you know, kind of just took care of that, you know, and Raiders took care of that, and now you're starting to see that your RPI is mattering, and if you want to get maybe you're a team or a league that used to get 3 teams in, and or you want to get, or you're used to getting 5 teams in. Now you're only getting 3 teams in the tournament. If you want to get that 4th or 5th team in, you got to have an RPI, or strong RPI, to get that 4th or 5th team in, and you got to win those games too. I mean, it's
Yeah.
these non-conference games here over the next few weeks. I'm not saying that it'll make or break a team's season, but it does matter come tournament selection time if you're on that quote unquote bubble. These games do kind of matter when it comes down to that, because you do got to win ball games. Non-conference games matter when you're comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges on that committee, when they're trying to figure out those last few teams that come into the tournament.
Yeah, and it's never going to be a pure system, right? It's
Yeah.
not. This isn't like track or swimming where I'm just simply faster than you. There is an eyeball test element to it, and at the same time, it has been fun to see some more data-driven decision making as it relates to not only who's in the field, but where they're seated, and all those types of things. So seeing the data come in a little bit, as the evolution of technology and film and all that stuff, it's hard for teams to hide anymore. 20 years ago, you used to be able to just rack up 20 wins playing whoever you wanted, and welcome to Branson, you're in the D2 level, right? But now there's a lot more metrics and points of entry, and frankly, the level of basketball and the teams are just way, way better than they were a while ago. So it's a lot of fun. It's just such a fun process to be at the front end of it here, starting off another season.
Well, and I think that part of that, and I know that, again, I want to preface this by, I know that not every league is able to partake in the top, or not even the top classics, but just partaking in classics in general because of how many league games they have. But we have so many really, really good big classics, because it's starting to shape up where these 4 main ones. I'll say there's 4 main ones now. You got the Abe Lemons that's over in Oklahoma City. That one's a tip-off of the year, the opening weekend. We're going to have teams like the Masters out there, Oklahoma City out there, or Oklahoma City's hosting, but you're going to have Oku out there. I think there's 3 top 15 teams in the country that are all out there, and we're going to have some big time matchups in that opening round weekend. We're going to see, you have the Battle of the Beach, who I believe is in their last season of having that out there, but that's usually around Thanksgiving weekend. It's always a big time tournament. Unfortunately, it sounds like the host, it's usually hosted out of JUCO, but unfortunately, it sounds like the host site may not be hosting that anymore. But that's always a big time one. You got I know the Cactus Classic's always right there around the New Year's. It's usually out west, and it always has some really fun battles. And then you got the show, NEI the show. It's always I think it's in the 10th or 11th year now, and they always do a really, really good job of bringing some really good teams out there, and it's right around the Thanksgiving time as well. There's some big time matchups there this year as well, and I say that because you get a lot of these and I say the bigger classics because also you have the 4-team classics on weekends as well, but these bigger ones that are bringing in 8, 10, 12 plus teams to one site for one weekend, or maybe it's a 3-day weekend, but it's an opportunity for several of these teams that are in these other leagues that maybe need a lot more games to get 3 or 4 games in a one weekend, and it's providing a lot of really, really fun matchups where we're going to see teams that are meeting in I say middle of the country, but maybe Tennessee or Oklahoma or wherever, that maybe we don't get to see very often, except for maybe the national tournament, because we're going to see a lot of California schools in Oklahoma, or we're going to see Florida schools go up to Tennessee. We're going to see different parts of different teams from across the country meet in the middle of the country to face off, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, the other ingredient to that too is just that it's fun for the guys. I mean, the players and coaches, but really for the players, those are awesome trips. I mean, we used to take teams up to the show, and Ken did a great job, Ken French, organizing that. And you go up, and that one in particular is in a it's in a hotel venue, right? You go, it almost feels like an AAU type thing, but I mean, you're seeing teams from literally all over the country, couple probably from your conference as well. And you eat a big turkey dinner, and you play some hoops and watch some football, and see and meet some people you wouldn't normally meet. And it's just an incredible atmosphere at those classes. Some of them have like almost like a national tournament type feel to them because the teams are so good. And I think what you're seeing more and more, which I think is awesome for our level, which is, the great teams aren't shying away from dumping their names in the hat at those things, and I love seeing that. I love seeing people put, 10 toes on the line and say, let's go, and early in the season and not worry about it. And it's really cool. And it's something that really elevates the level of play and visibility for men's basketball in the NAIA as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly one of those things where, at the time of this taping, we don't know the top 25 out yet. That's coming out later this week. But I mean, we're expecting a lot of these teams that are, scheduled to be at these ones we're going to see a lot of top 25 matchups early on in the year, and I think it's safe to say a lot of tournament teams are going to be showing up at a lot of these things. So like you said, when you say that it's going to have a tournament like atmosphere, it's going to be a lot of tournament type teams too. So you get an early season, test of what a tournament game will be like, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see a lot of these matchups. And like I said earlier, it's not going to make or break your season, but you get an early season test of maybe where you're at, and at least gets you ready to go for the rest of the season. And I think it's just a lot of fun, especially from a fan's perspective of you just get to see a lot of good players, a lot of good teams, a lot of good coaching early on in the year, and then even some of the opening weekend in Oklahoma City, obviously, but then even in Thanksgiving, you almost get a mid-year clash, mid-season clash, and then as soon as we turn the page there at the semester break is really when teams start getting into conference play, and we don't get a lot more non-conference action or battles usually second semester, so that a lot of those Thanksgiving and even the Cactus Classic there right around New Year's, that's kind of the last time you see a lot of non-conference battles. So it's kind of fun last, what I call the last brawls there between the non-conference teams going at it. So
and one of these years, we're for sale here, right? I mean, we're looking for some sponsorship to get out and go host a couple shows from one of these places, and that'd be kind of fun to go do. But those classics are funny. I remember back in the early 2000s, back when it was still obviously two divisions, Coach O'Malley at St. Xavier used to do a Christmas classic. And, the warm-up music was all Christmas carols and all this kind of stuff. But it was like 15, 20 teams that played games all day long, 5 days in a row during that Christmas break. And it was like one of the first ones that I remember really, all of a sudden you start seeing some really cool matchups that you wouldn't normally see. And then, some of these other ones start trickling in. So I got to give some props out there to Coach O'Malley and St. Xavier from back in the day in the CCAC. But, it's fun. It's all these things are great. And like you said, there's those opening classics too, just the little 4-team gatherings. And, you see some great matchups in some of those as well, where people are willing to put it on the line, so to speak, and see where you're at too. I mean, again, great teams don't shy away from those moments. I mean, you got to play a tough schedule to get yourself ready. And, I think a lot of our best teams, top 25 teams for sure, are doing that. They're not afraid of it anymore. So.
I mean, we're not at a point anymore where losses are costing you seed lines anymore either. Like I feel like that maybe was the case when we were in two divisions a little bit, but I think as long as your RPI is strong, and now if you lose several, obviously I mean you're that way, but I just feel like we're at a point where if you lose, especially a couple early on, to obviously the right teams, but if you lose a couple games early on and you rebound and win games, I mean, your schedule is going to matter more than and who you lose to obviously matters too. But go challenge yourself. I mean, that's the thing. It's cool, very cool to see some of these teams, and I think that it's really awesome, um, we're gonna open up on 10/24, October 24th is the opening very first day that teams can play each other, and right away we're gonna see LSU Shreveport facing off against Oklahoma Wesleyan, and those are two teams that I think of. Yeah, I think those two teams have been in Oklahoma, or have been. I think both those teams have been to Kansas City every year, but 1 year. I think all three or both those teams, or three or 4 years have been to Kansas City. So that just shows you right there. They've been in the round of 16 3 out of 4 years. That's just saying a lot. But yeah, really really fun. Two really really fun teams, and opening up day one, so got a heck of a game, and then even before we get to November 1st, you get the Crossroads League WAC Challenge, two really really good leagues that you get a couple good battles there, and always think it's fun to see some of these teams. Like a Spring Arbor, or even Oklahoma City that finished off the year really, really strong last year, who maybe didn't make the tournament. Those two teams, I know Oklahoma City won 5 of 7. I think Spring Arbor finished the year like maybe 6 of 8 or won 6 of 9, something like that. But teams like that who didn't make the tournament last year but just finished the year really, really strong, can they carry that momentum into this year? And now they start off the year, with some of these really, really good teams and return a lot of good players. How do they look coming into this year? That's kind of some of those storylines to look at as well.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt. It's a brand new journey for everybody. And some of the coaches we've had on, have echoed that as well. It's every year's a new chapter, and you got to start over. And there's certainly some momentum, I think, to carry in, especially if you got a lot of returners and you finish the year well. There's certainly some momentum, but there's injuries, there's behind the scenes stuff, there's transfers, there's so many different ingredients that you really don't know what you got till you get started. And honestly, a lot of the early season stuff is just laying the groundwork for playing your best basketball in February, March, which is really the goal. So, you'll see some teams take some lumps early that we know are really good, but just have to find their stride. And then you'll see some teams that maybe people thought were pretty good that kind of waffle throughout the year, and that's just the way it goes. So, going to be a fun journey to get going with 10/24.
Yeah, I mean you'll definitely see some teams trending in opposite directions from the beginning of the year to the end, and then and that's why you always, I think we've talked about last year, when we saw some seed lines in our tournament preview show, you see some teams and you see some matchups, and some of those 12, 13 seeds are teams that you see in the top, or that are in the preseason top 25 that just for whatever reason, like you talked about, are injured or just for whatever reason couldn't figure it out and then got hot late and made the tournament, and you're just like, oh man, that's a dangerous matchup for somebody late. So that's always an interesting storyline to follow throughout the year. But I think one thing that we know is Freed Hardeman, coming off a national championship year, and they'll try to be the first team to try to repeat since Oklahoma City, team that did it in 2007-2008. We've talked to the coach earlier in an interview, and also he lost some key players, but returning a lot as well, and bringing in some key transfers. They'll be one of the favorites to repeat. I would expect when the rankings come out, they'll be somewhere in the top 5, top 10, somewhere around there. But a very good Freed Hardeman team returning, and he coaches. Whenever you can defend like they defend, I mean, you'll give yourself a chance, and I think they'll be right there as well. But in our NAI Hoops Report top 10, I mean, I think Langston, College of Idaho, Georgetown, Indiana Wesleyan, Arizona Christian, Freed Hardeman, Grace, Oklahoma Wesleyan, the Masters, LSU, Alexandria are our top 10, and I think for us, I mean, that's not saying that anybody outside the top 10 aren't teams that are giving themselves a chance to win a national title as well. But for us, those are all teams that, at least on paper, I always say on paper early on in the year because you just never know how teams are going to go. But you probably start right there as the main group to look for a favorite to win it.
Yeah, yeah, and I think this year, not that there wasn't last year, but as I look at it, I feel like there's a little bit more parity, right? In that top 10, I see more teams that I would look at on paper and say, yeah, that team's got a shot to do it. And I think there's more of those teams this year in that top 10 mix than maybe last year, where I think there were a few that really kind of hung around the top for most of the year. But yeah, so that'll be fun. It'll be fun to separate. There'll be a lot of movement, right? And it'll
Yeah,
settle in eventually. And
yeah,
there's you do a great job with the research and putting that out and talking with coaches, but it's still shot in the dark. And at
oh
the
yeah,
end of the day, the games are what matters, and the arc rating is the one that matters. And that doesn't even start till a long time from now. So these things are good, gives us good fodder and food for conversation, but it's not. The arc rating is what we're all trending towards and tracking towards at the end of the year, right?
yeah, yeah. It absolutely is, and it's one of those things where you know, I know not everybody's big on the transfer portal, and that's just kind of where we're at these days. But I mean, listen, we had over 20 kids from the NEI go to Division 1 alone. That's not even counting the Division 2 transfers this year, and so that means a lot of new faces this year too. And and you know that's where a lot of question marks for a lot of teams come in this year too. So, a lot of teams lost a lot of players, and we have a lot of new faces in the NEI both ways too. You have a lot of
Yeah.
new faces that we had a lot of familiar faces that left, but we have a lot of new faces coming in this year, and a lot of that is how do players mesh, how do teams mesh, and we'll see a lot of that as well. But I thought one of the things looking through, and even deferring away from teams a little bit, I thought, even the National Player of the Year, was wide open this year as well. You talked about
Yeah.
teams, I thought the same thing for National Player of the Year. I thought the last couple of years, we kind of had what I would say is a clear cut favorite heading into the year. And I thought this year, uh, sure, there's probably a list of guys that are clear cut favorites, but I don't know that you could like last year. I think heading in the year was safe to say Elijah Malone was probably the
Yeah.
the the favorite to win. Nobody would have been, nobody was surprised to see Elijah, throughout the year be the favorite. And I think the year before, I think guys like, I mean, if you look back at the winners, Mason Walters was not really a surprise. Kyle Mangus was obviously not a surprise. I think maybe going back to Loyola, with that year there was probably four or five guys that maybe could have won it, and Loyola ended up winning a national title, and I think that's kind of where you go into this year, where a team success this year could lead to a player winning National Player of the Year, and that'll be interesting to see this year on how that plays out as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's no Barry Sanders, right? I mean, you got to be on a winning team to get recognized, and so unless you're just ridiculously separated from everywhere. Still frustrated with it. He retired early, but love you, Barry. But anyway, yeah, it's kind of one of those things. You got to be on a winning team. I mean, I think that man, best player on the best team, typically he's got a shot, right? And so if you're in the final four, right? You final eight, and you're an elite player, you're gonna have a shot at that Player of the Year recognition. And yeah, there's so many good players. It's amazing. Look at that list that we have out for guys that are in that mix for Player of the Year and All American and things like that. I mean, you could probably sit there and make a case for 7 or 8 of them. They're and or maybe more. I don't know. But
Um,
they'll have to prove it too. It's a prove
yep.
it game, and part of being a Player of the Year, from my perspective, when I was part of those processes, is are you a winner, right? I mean, are you in a winning team? Most of those kids are, but I think your team has to win. You have to elevate the level of play for your team to be a Player of the Year candidate in my mind, and that probably means you're playing on one of the last few days of the year.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm gonna put you on the spot a little bit on this one, but what are you looking forward to the most heading into the season here? I know I know a lot of newness, but what are you looking forward to the most?
One thing that's always energizing is yes, it hasn't aired yet, I don't think, but talking to Coach yesterday, right, from LSU Alexandria, and just the idea that every year there's going to be a curveball. There's going to be a team that you weren't thinking was as good as they are, or maybe somebody's not as good as you thought they were going to be. There's going to be players that we may not even know about because people are keeping them under wraps a little bit. And after the first couple weekends, you're like, well, where the heck did this kid come from?
Yeah.
And everybody likes to think they got the magic 8 ball on this stuff, but the reality is you don't. And it's all about just watching teams evolve is really fun and an energizing component of this year, right? Say, hey, who are they now? And we get the luxury of watching lots of different games and teams develop throughout the year and players, and then, like when we were talking to Grace the other day, right? Like Ian Scott, I mean, you got this guy named Elijah and all these other guys in front of him, and now you got a shot to really see who this young man is, and there's going to be other kids like that too, where maybe they've been playing behind some great players, and now it's their chance, so to speak, and it's going to be fun to see them go at it. And yeah, this is just a really exciting time of year if you're a hoops junkie like we both are.
Yeah, no, that's so well said, and I can't agree more. I mean, it's obviously, you come into the season and you have the favorites and quote unquote favorites, and usually, you know you're not you're not shocked on who maybe wins the national title, but like, I mean, you even look back to last year. We had a 15 seed and a 14 seed in Kansas City last year with Evangel and then Central Baptist out of Arkansas. Like, you just two scrappy teams, but you just you don't know who some of those teams are. Who, one, are going to reach Kansas City, but two, just like you said, who's going to come out and not just reach Kansas City, but who's not on our radar right now that maybe
Yeah.
is ready to make that next step or surprise us all. And that goes player wise too, like you said too. I think that one of the cool parts for me anyway is watching some of those youngsters. I think especially particularly the freshmen. You know, start it's such a hard transition from high school to even college at any level. I think it's hard for some kids, and some kids make it look easy, trust me, but it's not that way for everybody. And there will be some growing pains for every kid. Not every kid just steps in and goes 20 every single game. And not every senior does that either.
Yeah.
Freshmen will go through some growing pains, and but what's cool about it is that it's just watching some of those kids that make names for themselves as freshmen, and then being able to watch them all the way through. Hopefully, all the way through. Again, the transfer portal makes things a little
Yeah.
different sometimes, but it's cool to watch those kids as freshmen jump onto the scene and then being able to follow them through their career. Guys, like Riley, it was fun to, just to tell a Riley story. I think I don't remember if it was you or somebody else in your league that was like, hey, Southeastern has this kid. You may want to watch. And I watched him the very next game, and I can't remember if it was against a D1 you guys played or who he played, and he went for 20 that game, and then I think he got hurt after that. But
Yeah.
but it was the first time I watched him, and just watching him move, obviously at his size and everything like that, you just knew he was gonna be good, and then he was. And then unfortunately, I know he battled his injuries through his early part of
Yeah.
his career, but guys like that it's just so fun, and it's fun too because coaches and when they fill out their preseason questionnaires for the magazine and stuff, they'll throw out, hey, I have a kid, watch him. I
Keep an
think
eye
he's
on
got
this guy, right?
yeah, they're like, hey, I think this kid's got a chance to be pretty good, and so they're guys that we circle on the stuff, and it's cool to watch the coaches be right too, like
Yeah, yeah.
because that's the
Well,
cool.
and it's
Go
funny
ahead.
that development piece. I mean, Riley's a great example. We don't keep talking about him, but it's a good example. Like
Yeah,
his freshman year, his first, couple months,
Yeah,
I mean, he couldn't throw it in the
I
ocean.
know.
The game was moving way too fast for him. I mean, he would own that too. He couldn't show up on time for film. I mean, we had all this stuff, but then it starts clicking. And I think it was Morningside. Maybe they were number one or something like that. We played him out in
Yeah.
Iowa in the middle of some snowstorm, and he went for like 30 something. And it was like, oh, okay, well, yeah, he's kind of got the it factor. And then from there, I mean, nobody ever looked back on him. But all those guys, I'm sure if you talk to Greg at Wesley, I'm sure Tonigal, thinking about Mangus and those guys. I mean, there's moments where it takes them some time for it to click. Once
Yep.
it does, and everything else. And I think these transfer portal things. To me, it's also cool to see
Yeah.
a kid
Yeah.
like Riley, to see a kid like Elijah Malone. I mean, they committed to the NAI. They were there. They didn't put their toes in the water for 1 year and then bail at greener grass. I mean, they saw it through. They either graduated or they played 3 or 4 years for their particular school. They were committed. They invested, and then yeah, they had an awesome opportunity. And I guarantee if we lined up all the coaches out there, if they got dangled a really good opportunity, they're all going to take it too.
Yep.
So I'm going to say that I think there's a lot of good that comes from that too. That these kids are able to develop and grow, and then they have these awesome opportunities that, like in Riley's case, lead to playing for the San Antonio Spurs next to ping pong with Wembanyama and Chris Paul. Disappointed he went down to there, but that doesn't happen if they don't have the opportunity to take those next level. And just like coaches, right? We were talking with LSUA yesterday. He's coaching high school, doing a great job. Guess what, man? You got your shot. What
Yep.
are you going to do with it? And so now he's doing great things. And I think all that growth and opportunity is great. And, the coaches that do a great job with their programs and they develop relationships and they have a stickiness to their culture, they're not just losing kids to
Yeah.
whatever opportunity. They're losing kids to go like Grace, for example, to go to play at Colorado. I mean, what an unbelievable opportunity for Elijah. It's really awesome. So just positive spin on all the transfer stuff too.
Yeah, and I'll add to that a little bit just because I know I've said this online, and I said it in the magazine, I believe too, but the transfer portal and the fifth year in particular has been very, very good for the NEI. And I say that
Absolutely.
because those that fifth year COVID option, um and kudos, and I give all the kudos to those guys, those first guys who went off and made it happen with their fifth year, because those guys all had success. The Alex Grosses, I'm gonna miss some guys, but
Loyola
a lot of
guys, right? I
yeah, the
mean,
Loyola
yeah,
guys that they all went off. Like there was a grouping in those first couple years of five or ten, probably 5 to 10 guys, and they all had success, all conference, all league, defensive guys. I think there was a couple league or maybe league, maybe not MVPs, but there was a couple of different award winners in there, and it led to guys going, okay, maybe we need to start looking for any guys. Then it trickled all the way down to the Riley Minixes, and what happened was, what I started hearing was Division 1 guys reaching out even to us, going, okay, we need the next Riley, which Riley's Riley, that's good luck with that, but at
yeah,
the same time, like it starts getting those D1 coaches going, okay, there are guys obviously at all levels. We knew there was talent at all levels. We've seen the talent for years, but those guys having success at the Division 1 level previously opened the doors for all these other guys to be recruited from Division 1s. And unfortunately, we hate to see them leave, but it's cool to see them have the opportunity as well. And listening to Colorado Thad talk the other day, he brought up Elijah going to be able to, he's going to be the starter for Colorado this year, which is awesome. Not that we doubted
yeah.
Elijah having success, but it's just cool to see those guys, having
Well,
success
yeah.
and stuff in the next level. So
And some of those D1s have been doing that for a minute. I mean, Thad's a good example at Colorado. When
Yep.
I was coaching D2 here in the RMAC, we had this little kid named Derek White
Yep.
that nobody bothered to recruit besides Jeff Culver to his NAIA school, which at the time was Johnson Wales. Minimal scholarship, and then Jeff goes to UCCS, and Derek goes with him, and I remember even the first him. There's another good example. The first few games we played Derek White, it was sag off him 10 feet and in, couldn't shoot. Good. You knew he was good, but he wasn't that. And then by the time he was a junior, it was get your popcorn and watch, because I think the last time we played him, he had like a triple double, like 44, 18, and 12, and it was embarrassing how good he was relative to everybody else. And now he's winning a world championship with the Boston Celtics as a starting guard, and he's playing on the Olympic team, winning a gold medal alongside Hall of Famers. That's another story, right, of that journey that kids can go on from essentially, really under-recruited, unrecruited, which some of the kids at our level are, to blossoming and growing and putting the work in. And there's no cooler thing to see than that. So
Yeah.
I love when kids like Elijah, Derek, Riley, all these kids get these opportunities. Man, go take it
Yeah.
and seize it and make the most of it. And they're going to. It'll be really fun to root them on this year.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. And I just want to give a shout out to, because I know he just signed last night, I believe. But Mason Walters, another one that just signed a G League contract with the Valley Suns.
That's awesome.
Cool. Yeah,
Great.
cool to see him too. I know, uh, you know, was a little banged up at Wyoming, but when he
Yeah.
made his transfer, but very cool to see him back
Well,
healthy and playing well. So
yeah, I went this summer and watched Summer League in Vegas, and just to watch Riley a little bit. And I'm watching these games and I'm thinking I could rattle off 8, 10 NAIA guys that would be better than a lot of the dudes running around out here. Not That's not to say anything against anybody, but they all have the accolades of played Division One and SEC and all this kind of stuff. And even the game I went to, Riley was the best player on the floor, and I think several other. If I would have put Elijah Malone out there, or Mason Walters, all these kids, they're definitely belong. And look at what Kyle did last year with his opportunity in G League. It's just
yep,
we got great players, and I hope our kids and coaches have great confidence about what's growing here in the NAIA, because it's just getting better. That's the
yep,
other thing. It's not going the other direction. I mean, there was a time where all you heard was, "Oh, the NAIA is going to die. It's not going to be around real long," and that's just nonsense. I mean, it's a great level of basketball. It's a great group of coaches with awesome coaching philosophies about whole player development, not just about the hoop side of it. Doesn't matter where you turn, you hear that same story, right? I mean, they all care about the
yeah.
kids and their development, and then man, the level of play just keeps getting better and keeps getting better, and this year's going to be no different.
Yeah, and I think it's cool, and just to feed off. I think that when we turn to one division, especially, I think you're learning you can do it in a lot of different ways. I think that
Yeah,
I think um you talk about Chris Wright at Langston. He's been to two Final Fours or two Fab Fours in the last 3 years with two different teams, with Talladega, and then last year with Langston. But he does it through the transfer portal.
yeah,
He brings in a lot of transfers. He that's his way. Those type of guys fit his personality, and I think that's the key. I mean, you have to have guys that fit your personality. Now, now the other guys do it through 4 years and bringing guys through at the program, and those guys fit their coaching personality, and I think that's key. Now, can those guys switch roles and be able to coach each other's kids? Probably not. That's the key
no,
to successful coaching, is being able to recruit the kids to fit your personality, and being able to. And that's the fun part about, I think, the NEI, and all levels do that, I know, but like the fun part about being able to watch the successful programs through the NEI is that every program is a little different. And you have everybody being in between too. You have the teams that mix transfers and 4-year kids and grow the programs that way too. But just being able to watch different styles of play, the different philosophies in recruiting, the different. We were talking with Purnell at Oregon Tech. The mountain kids and beach kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
It's cool. It's
just
fun.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
not,
just
it's no one way to do it. It's, and those coaches that can get really comfortable in their skin, right? Like, I mean, if you talk to Chris, right, he's great with what he does. That's why he does it.
yep,
He's got a great approach. He's got a sound philosophy. He's a heck of a coach, and they win games. And those kids play hard for him. I mean, and then you talk, some of the other top teams have, more traditional, whatever that word means, but 4-year type players that have been in their program and they grow them up, and you can do it so many different ways. It's just, as a coach, it's about who are you, what matters to you, and are you willing to stick to your guns in recruiting towards that philosophy or not? And sometimes you'll see people, that pendulum swing, right? You see them early on try to do it one way and it doesn't work real well, and they try to do it the other way and it doesn't work real well, and eventually they find their center
yeah.
and what matters to them. But it's, there's so many different ways to do it, and I just think it's fun, like you, to watch it happen. It's like, oh, I know I couldn't do that. I mean, like like I got a way that I coach and type of kid that I can coach, and if you put me on somebody else's bench, I'd probably ruin the team. I can barely keep my own together, but let alone try to coach somebody else's. So I think it's fun. It's really fun to watch. So.
And I will mention it's going to be something to watch out for this year, and I know from talking to them, and I'm sure we'll have them on here in the next few weeks as the season goes through. But Coach Wright, maybe his top recruit this year is as actually not a player. It's actually going to be a coach. Bringing in Danny Neville, a former Jamestown head coach. Jamestown went to three. And speaking of Mason Walters, coached Mason Walters at Jamestown. But with everything that at Jamestown and when they left there, and Danny just wanted to be, learn to, or not learn, but wanted to become a better coach, and Coach Wright has a coaching philosophy he wanted to go be part of, and learn from maybe a year, whatever it takes to get back to be a head coach. And so he went on down to Langston and joined that coaching staff, and
Smart move.
yeah, very very excited to see how those two. I think they balanced in each other very very well personality wise too. So I think it'll be fun to watch those two as well all year long. But yeah, I mean, you're just talking about, we're talking about, personalities of coaching and stuff. I'm interested to see that one all year long too. But yeah, just when you're talking about teams that can win a national title, I mean, you know, again, on paper, Langston's very very talented again, and Coach Wright's been back to two Fab Fours. I'm sure he's hungry to get over that Fab Four one and get to and win a national title. Again, I think just to preface what they've done at Langston since they've gotten there. This is a program again that just 3 years ago was a 1 or 2 win program. To all of a sudden be in a Fab Four last year is just amazing work. And then you got a College of Idaho team who won a national title 2 years ago, returned almost everybody, and made another Fab Four run last year. Uh, and returns everybody, but basically Jake O'Neill this year. They'll be right there again this year. Coach Kobe Blaine does a really 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 good job. Fun team to watch. And then you got Georgetown and Indiana Wesleyan. I think two of the what I would call prominent head coaches in the NEI. With Briggs and them. I mean, Briggs at Georgetown is I think a lot of people. I mean, I think he's won. I'd have to look 2 or 3 national titles. At Georgetown, and they're. If you look at their roster right now, I mean, they've done a great job of building that roster back up, and they're loaded with talent again. They've got some good returners too, but brought in some big time transfers, and I really love what they've done with this off season, and I think that they got a chance to be very, very good. And Indiana Wesleyan is just Indiana Wesleyan. I think that everybody, if you're new to NEI and you're listening to this, just know that maybe the most traditional program in the NEI, but what Coach Tonagel and company do over there is just top notch, and another 3 national titles, I believe, with Coach Tonagel. But very, very talented. They've got a lot of good returners coming in as well, and then brought in a couple of transfers. And then if Luke Brown, sat out last year, if he's healthy this year, maybe one of the top guards in the country. But one of the better shooters in the country as well. So very interested to see that group play together as well. And then just wanted to, I'm not going to go through the entire top 10, but want to at least go through 4 or 5 teams there that outside of Freed, the defending national champs there that teams to keep an eye on early, and especially if you're new to the NEI. I know we it's so interesting. We maybe another one to interesting part for me every year is you get the interactions with the fans, or we get the interactions with the fans, and you always get new parents that come through and interact with us and ask questions every year, and we always encourage that too. It's always fun to interact with people, and it's fine if you're brand new to the NEI. It's totally fine and fine or cool, and ask questions for us at NEI Hoops Report on social media, or NEI Hoops Report at gmail.com. We're always here to help you out. That's what we're here for. We definitely don't pretend to know everything or have every answer. We're here just to try to get information out. Definitely, we like to engage, and we're wrong a lot, but we try to definitely just bring attention to the NEI. That's our number one goal. So when we say that these are the favorites and somebody wins the national title outside of these teams, don't you can blame Coach Lubbers. That's why
you can go to my social media. You guys can find me on social media. You can blast me all you want. Say whatever you want. There's nothing I care less about. So
Yep.
But yeah, all feedback to my social media accounts is welcome if you can find them. So
as soon as you find his social media accounts, make sure you blast him. But
just wear me out. But you're right too. I mean, it's like heck, they put people in the Hall of Fame for baseball for batting 300. So if we're even close to that, or you're even close to that, I think you're doing okay. And it's all about, like you said, I love the way you do business, Junior, and how you started this. It's all about the kids. It's all about bringing visibility to the NEI and just shining a light on this level of basketball and doing it. The way you do it, the way you've done it is just awesome. I know everybody really appreciates it, and I love getting a chance to partner with you and be a part of it. But this is your baby. I mean, you've developed this thing, and it's just been really cool. And I think as we start the season, if you've never, been a part of this, or maybe your kid is new to the NAIA, or you're a new coach in this, I would just encourage you just help with this journey of positively shining a light on the NAIA. And Junior, you've been a leader in this, and I know so many coaches have told me how much they value the work that you do and the time that you put in. And so I know you don't want to hear this stuff on the kickoff show, but I'm going to give it to you anyway, because the work that you do is amazing, man. It's really fun to be a part of. So congrats.
Well, I appreciate that. It is always. I'm humbled by the words, but yeah, I don't. We just really do only care about the coaches and the players and the level and growing the game. I mean, it's been cool to see the NAI grow over the last 6 years of actually doing this, and then 5 years of our coverage really growing. I always talk about the first year of or the very first article we ever wrote, and having 10 people, or 10 viewers read it, and now to where it's been. It's very, very cool to see. But really, it's just very, very cool to now, see on social media people talking about NEI in a more positive light, and I say what I mean by people, I mean like actual like even Division I news
Yeah.
reporters, and that's to me that's a credit to a lot of those players we mentioned before who have gone off to the Division I level and had success, and that's very very cool. It's not as negative. Man, if you and I know I'm preaching to the choir to you and some of the coaches listening, but 6, 7, 8 years ago, what it was, people did not think very highly of the NEI. So it's very, very cool to see where it is now and continuing to let it grow and shine has been is very, very fun. And like we talked about all episode long, I mean, it's gonna be even more fun this year because I think we do have a lot of very, very talented players and coaches and teams going into this year. It's going to be a lot of fun to cover them all. And I know I speak for you as I say that we can't wait to get the tip off or get the games tipped off on the 24th here and see a lot of these teams that we've been talking about and talking to the coaches. And we can't wait to see them on the floor against each other. And as we
Yeah.
always say that we will be covering everybody. So make sure that you, again, NEIHoopsReport.com will have articles and everything out all year. NEI Hoops Report on Twitter at NEI Hoops Report is usually where we cover most of our stuff. So make sure you're following us there as well. But other than that, we will see you guys next time. This is Coach Lubbers Jr. signing off.